Hi, I'm Scott Womble, and this is your 2-minute tip on biblical interpretation. A few weeks ago, I was in Athens, Greece, and so of course, I had to walk up to the Acropolis and visit the Parthenon. As you're walking up to the Acropolis, Mars Hill sits right there. Unfortunately, as this picture shows, Mars Hill was not accessible. I had fully intended on shooting this video on Mars Hill, but I just wasn't able to do it. So a few pictures will have to be sufficient. Acts 17 tells us about the Apostle Paul when he was in Athens. And of course, the Greeks believed in many gods. Gods such as Apollo, Zeus, Poseidon, and of course, Athena. As Paul looked around in Athens, he was greatly distressed because the city was full of idols. As Paul was talking with some Epicurean and Stoic philosophers, he began explaining about the resurrected Christ. This piqued their interest, and they invited Paul over to Mars Hill so that he could explain this in further detail. When Paul was given opportunity to speak, he said these words: "People of Athens, I see that in every way you are very religious, for as I walked around and looked carefully at your objects of worship, I even found an altar with this inscription, 'To an unknown God.' So you're ignorant of the very thing you worship, and this is what I'm going to proclaim to you." Paul goes on to tell them about the God who made the entire world, the God of heaven and earth, a God that doesn't live in temples made by human hands. And he ends this sermon by telling them the proof of his message is found in the resurrected Christ. To this, some just kind of sneered at Paul's message, while others said, "We want to hear more about this later." Notice they didn't object with Paul because of his belief in a singular God who created the universe. They objected to his view about the resurrection. See, some Greeks viewed death as the end of the road, and others viewed life as continuing in kind of a murky, strange existence in Hades. Some even believed in being resurrected into some kind of a new body, but they certainly could not believe in a Jesus who was resurrected in his same body. This was strange stuff to their ears, but it offered a hope that the Greeks had never dreamed about. That's why some heard Paul's message and they became believers. Remember, the gospel offers hope. And that's your interpretive tip for the day. Remember, first and foremost, that when you read God's word, God offers hope. And it's a hope that's grounded in the resurrection of Jesus. Well, I hope this 2-minute tip has been a blessing to you. And remember, go shine the light for Jesus. God bless.